don't like this one as much now that I've got that other one, but here we have left common carotid artery. So this is up a ways. This is up into the, getting up into the mandibular region. Okay? We're really almost above the neck region, and you have your left internal jugular vein, which is right underneath the sternocleidomastoid muscle, and your left common carotid artery. Here you have your right common carotid artery and right internal jugular vein. Those would be the main things I'd look at on that. That's a CT. Here we have the right common carotid artery just at the point of its bifurcation. It bifurcates into the internal and external carotid arteries. The external carotid arteries has 7 branches that feed the facial region. The internal carotid artery proceeds posteriorly, unbranched, up through the carotid canal into the cranium and provides 1/3 of the blood supply for the brain. Here's the right internal and external carotid artery that has just passed its bifurcation. This person was either tilted a little bit or was slightly asymmetric. And here we have the internal jugular veins. The external jugular veins you can actually see on the surface of the body, in a lot of people anyway. So here we have, the heart would be right here. This is the superior vena cava. We have some veins that run along the chest cavity, the posterior aspect of the chest cavity, called the azygos veins. And the azygos veins provide, this is the hemiazygos vein over there, and that's the azygos vein over here. And there's communication between the two, and the azygos system provides collateral flow for the vena cava. If anything were to happen to the vena cava, I can't imagine how you could stay alive, but at least there would be another way for the blood to get up to the heart. Okay? It's called collateral flow. We have a lot of collateral systems in the body that provide collateral blood flow, more than one way for blood to get somewhere. So that if you have blockage of one vessel, it does not necessarily mean the end of everything. And so this azygos system eventually drains into the superior vena cava right there. This is called the azygos arch. And I actually have medical images that show this. And so these azygos veins are lab works tonight, as is the azygos arch. And here we see the right brachiocephalic vein and left brachiocephalic vein. Right internal jugular vein, left internal jugular vein. And rights and lefts become very important now. So here we see the azygos arch. And these azygos veins run back against the spine. This is the ascending aorta, descending aorta, superior vena cava, trachea, esophagus. And here we see the hemiazygos vein and the azygos vein right there. And this is the abdominal aorta. We know that because we're just below the diaphragm. The diaphragm is a dome structure. We're looking at the liver over here, and the dome comes over the top of the liver. So we're slicing through, and it's like, just like you took a basketball and cut it in half and opened it up. That's what the diaphragm looks like. It's like 2 half domes. And we've cut through those half domes a little bit below the top, so that this part of the aorta that we're looking at is, see right here this is diaphragm all right there. And then we're looking at diaphragm back in here too. So this is just below, the aorta has just come through the diaphragm. This is the esophagus, the esophageal hiatus. And so this is abdominal aorta. And This is inferior vena cava. Veins are always bigger than arteries. See what else? And the main thing is the hemiazygous and azygous veins. So the azygous system provides collateral flow. Okay? And so we have the common carotid artery down here bifurcates into the external carotid artery, which has 7 branches, all 7 of which we will learn, and the internal carotid artery, which proceeds unbranched inside the cranium. And so the ones we can see on this picture, pretty good picture, are the superior thyroid artery. This is the lingual artery, which goes deep. The facial artery comes back around the mandible superficially, and is quite a superficial artery. This is the ascending pharyngeal artery. Okay. And going back up here, back in there is the maxillary artery, which is just this diabolical artery that has 15 named branches. In an advanced class, you'd learn all 15 branches. We won't. But there's some very important and interesting branches of the maxillary artery. And the posterior auricular artery isn't shown very well on here, but up in front of the ear is the superficial temporal artery, which runs up in front of your external auditory meatus. This is my favorite place to get a pulse, because you got the superficial temporal artery laying right on top of that bone, cranial bone. It's a great place to get a pulse. Down here is kind of, sometimes you imagine it, and sometimes you think you got it. I like it up here better. You get a really good pulse. And so this is superficial temporal up here. This is the terminal branch. The 2 terminal, every artery that gives off a bunch of branches, you finally get to the last Y, and that's called the terminal branches. So the maxillary and superficial temporal are the 2 terminal branches of any significance of the external carotid artery. We'll learn the 7 major branches of the external carotid artery. And there they are: superior thyroid, okay, ascending pharyngeal, lingual, facial, posterior auricular, internal maxillary, some people call it, with the 15 named branches, and what's left is the superficial temporal artery. And there they are. Okay? So those are the ones you got to know, and most of them show up quite well on models, except for the maxillary. Okay? And here's the facial, which is quite superficial, superficial temporal. Okay? And so here we see facial, remember, comes superficially, and the lingual goes deep. Under there, superior thyroid. Okay, superficial temporal, maxillary, facial, lingual, posterior, ascending pharyngeal, pardon me, and superior thyroid. Okay. So these pictures in your book are terrible. Don't look at them unless you're really masochistic. Okay? They'll drive you crazy. Pictures in books of blood vessels, unless it's netter, are usually very poor. And I wouldn't spend a whole lot of time. You can use it to learn the spelling of them, but don't try and learn the anatomy of blood vessel pictures especially in a lecture text. Just don't even look at them. Okay, pictures like that. So that's not a bad picture, though. I kind of like that one. That almost looks like it comes out of your book, but it doesn't show the rest of the anatomy. It just shows the branching pattern, and that's good. This picture is worthless. It's we're not gonna go to arteries in the arm, okay, and don't look at that picture in your book. These are the ones we're gonna learn. I might comment on this one right here. In your lab handout, it's called radial palmar superficialis, which is really quite poor nomenclature. It should be radialis palmaris superficialis. Add an IS to the first two words. So these are the major arteries of the arm, and they all show up nicely on our arm model. And this is terrible. So's that. Okay. So's that. This one's not bad because it's out of Netter. If you've ever seen anybody really buffed up, you've seen these superficial veins. And this is the cephalic vein. Superficial veins have words you've never heard of before. Deep veins have words, anatomical words like axillary and subclavian and words like that. But superficial veins that you can see have strange names like basilic and cephalic. And the basilic and the cephalic are connected by the median cubital vein. And those are the three I want you to know, because those, that's the one that you most commonly get blood drawn out of. Okay, most commonly I say, because some people are hard to get blood out of. Okay, so those are the three superficial veins I want you to know. We won't learn, the only deep veins we'll learn are great big ones. Branching pattern, people have very different branching patterns for veins. I mean, on an individual basis. Sometimes, in some people, a vein will just be running along and all of a sudden they'll branch into 3 for a ways, and then they'll all come back together, or come back to 2, and I mean, it's quite individual. And the branching patterns we're learning for arteries are only good for about 55% of the population. So, okay. And that's all of that. So,